Greetings and hallucinations. Welcome, my name is Buddy. This is Spun Together. I'd like to invite you to my home and do a little show and tell of what I've been up to. I don't really have a Ravelry thread or anything. I do have an account, but not active. And my Instagram is just a personal thing that I haven't posted on for a long time, very long time. And my email is spuntogether@gmail.com, spuntogether @gmail.com. And this is take number 9,412.3. I've had a lot of issues, a lot of personal stuff, and a lot of other things. But I'm back, whether that's good, bad, or ugly, here I am. So, greetings, hallucinations, and welcome. First, let's get started on a few things that I've been working on, finished objects. And get this out of the way and get this over here and get everything started. I'm housing everything in my little basket. I crocheted this out of just a couple of balls of yarn that I had that they were less than half a skein, so I just put them together and crocheted them about a medium hook. I don't remember the size. It was whatever the gauge was for the thicker of the two yarns, and I held them together so it would be a very tight stitch after it was formed. And that's just the way I like to make my baskets, just tight. I started out just the basic circle, and you add six single crochets into it. The next row you put two in every single, and then the next row it's two, and then a single, and then you go all the way around, and then you go on to three singles and one double, or double, but I mean two crochets in one stitch, two singles in one stitch. Just the basic circle. Got it as big as I thought I would like, then just straight up the sides, no increases. Counted over 10 stitches for the handle, and when I've got here, it was just a matter of making 10 chains, picking back up after 10 stitches, went all the way around, did the same for the other side. And my next row, I went under the chain instead of through each chain and added 12. That helps it to stick out just a little bit, but not way out. Just enough so you've got a good size handle. Easy to put your hand in, so I can fit 4 fingers easily. Plenty of room. Finished it off just straight across. I think I used a slip stitch just to hold everything in place. This is housing my finished objects. Okay, first of the finished objects, a couple of socks, and as you know, I like my shorty socks, so I have the blue. This was out of a hawthorn. I do not remember the colorway, and I do not know what I did with the little tag that goes with it. I put the afterthought heel in, which looks odd until you turn it the way everyone's used to seeing a sock, and that's when you get the rounded toe, the rounded heel, They've been blocked. They're a little bit on the long side, but I've been adding extra rows so I can put them in the dryer on the lowest heat setting. That way if they shrink just a little bit, I don't have to worry about it, because I know my feet are going to stretch them back out into the shape that I want. It is a super wash yarn, so I'm not worried about it felting. And honestly, a few minutes in the dryer on the lowest heat, they feel a lot better. When I block everything and give it the first wash, I always use a shampoo that has a conditioner in it, and that way it softens it up. I think it is hair, so therefore my mind is seeing, okay, hair shampoo, don't use softener, fabric softener, so I use the conditioner. And it's just like the hair on your head. It has that soft feel to it. I've been going through my scrap bin, see what I have and what I need, what I don't need, and trying to do away with some of my smaller balls of yarn and trying to figure out what I want to do with them. I've already made a scrap afghan. Did it last year using my DK weight. This year I've been going through my fingering weight. So I do have, these are my scrappy socks. Okay, show you this one. I also did Afterthought heel. This was one of my favorite colorways, and by it being a scrap yarn, I do not remember the names of them. The toes and the cuffs, I think, are the same yarn. I just had a couple of smaller balls, and that's what I use. So, but I think they're the same. They feel the same. And if that's the case, then it is probably Patton's Croy Charcoal, which is one of my favorite go-to. And as you can see, I had enough here to get the main part of the foot. That's where I ran out, so that's where I changed over to a second pair or a second ball. I do have them on the matchy side. Let's see if I can fold it back around. I'm one of these, I do like a matchy sock. So whether it's stripes, patterns, or whatever, I do like them to match. What I did was I wound it into two balls that looked very similar in size, and that's what I went by. I would go until about almost the end of one, and then I would do that much more on the other one so that I could keep them about the same. I started with the toes. I knew how much I would have, because I also knew I had two more of these. So I just did my toes, did however much I thought I had, did a quick count, then added the next ball onto it. When I do an afterthought, I do a forethought instead of the afterthought, which means that row right here, when I knit this row, what I do is I put a piece of just scrap yarn, one that I don't have to worry about. I usually use acrylic or something easy to pull out. If I used wool, it would want to sort of felt together, blend together. So I used either acrylic or cotton, and that's going to give me a line here. I always skip one or two stitches, knit almost to the end, leaving one or two stitches using that scrap yarn. And then I like to use two 24-inch needles or DPNs, so that way it's easier for me to just slide those two over and then come back with the main yarn and start the row over top of that scrap yarn so that I can keep staying in pattern. At the end, I usually go about 10 rows, and then I'll start my rib. And as you see, I almost made it to 10. I did have to start the charcoal a little bit, about halfway through my 10 row. I'm not going to try to count it. It's charcoal, so, but I do have 10 rows between my forethought heel and my rib. That fits my foot best. And while I was into my scrap sock yarn, I wanted to use up some of the smaller balls and what I had. So I thought, okay, I'm going to do like everyone else and get on the African Club. So what I've done, I just went ahead and started, and some of these are what I've dyed, some are left over from store-bought, some are just odds and ends, but they are all from a sock yarn. I can tell the ones that I've dyed just by the feel. When I dye yarn, my first wash I will use like Dawn or a heavier, not a heavier detergent, a stronger detergent to make sure all of the excess dye and everything has been washed out, and then I'll use just hair conditioner on it and have everything soft, easy to work with. But some of the ones, I can tell which ones are store-bought off the shelf, which ones are like indie dyer, and there's a big difference. All right, where's one? All right, this brown, it came from a ball that was, I think, Peyton's Croy, and compared to some of the other, it feels like rope. Compared to mine, it definitely does. And compared to some of the indie dye, it's in between mine and store-bought. So it just depends on what the dyer used to finish the rinsing and washing out excess dye as to how the feel is. I like working with the softer feel, but I'm not afraid to work with the harsher. I'm one of those people that I do enjoy working with cotton, so if it's a little bit on the ropey side, it doesn't bother me that much. So far, I'm thinking, do I want to go ahead and dye more minis to add to it? Do I want to purchase a few minis to add to it? Or do I want to just go ahead and leave my notes of this is sock yarn 75, 25 or 80 and 20 blend. The size hook that I used, which is a 3.25 millimeter. I did opt to use the steel crochet hook versus the aluminum or a wooden one. I found I got better tension. It was smoother, so that's one that I'm going to stay with. I do have the aluminum in that size, but somehow the steel, I liked it better. It had a better feel when I was working with it, and I like the stitch definition I got from it a whole lot better. The other things that I've been up to, I've been spinning again. It's something just mindless, in some ways tedious, but still mindful. And here's what I have so far. So yeah, been a little bit busy. I can think when I spin, but not too much. It's the same way when I paint. I can think when I paint, but not too much. I'm happy with most of it. There are still a few I'm not sure about, but for the most part, I think I'm getting the results I want. It's about a 2 weight. There are parts of it that are closer to a 1, And then I have sections that are closer to a 3, like right in here. And then I have these little slubs that pop up that I have yet to figure out how I let that get past me when I was doing the single. Um, Unless I put it through the wheel, manually instead of letting it spin on, or if I unspun it when I was checking a twist or something, I'm really not sure. But they're in there. It's homespun. I am coming from the world of spindle going into spinning wheel. I do have an electric eel wheel Nano 2. It's got a 2 ounce bobbin, which singles, yes, I can get the 2 ounces on a single. But as far as plying, the most I've been able to get plying has been about 60 yards. And this one was the one that I was able to ply into 60. On a spindle, I can get up to, I think the most I've ever gotten on a spindle was about 66 yards. But yeah, I'm pretty proud with how it came out. It's not the best, it's not the worst. This one, I'm going to say, is also a 2 weight. This was a respin. It was some yarn that had been core spun. I did not like it, did not enjoy working with it. It was just a royal pain in the butt. There were a lot of extremely floofy spots, and there were a lot of extremely thin and bare spots. So I unspun it. I think the reason I was able to get more consistency with this spin than with this spin was this had already been drafted, and it was just like a roving, like someone had put it through a diz, and all I had to do was just thin out a few of the bulky spots that had slubs in it and rejoin a few of the spots that were bare, almost non-existent. So I was very pleased with that. I will go over the Nano 2 at a later date. My thoughts, good, bad, and ugly. And I also have plans to go through my tools of the trade, so to speak. And I do have a couple of acquisitions. I've made a couple of purchases. I got, this is, let's see, made in Turkey. Where's the thistle? Yeah. Colorway is thistle. I hope it shows up. It's a pound of love. Still in the bag, so I'm going to leave it in the bag until I'm ready to use it. So I have got 2 of these. It was when Michaels had their sale. It was buy one, get one half off. So I purchased 2 of those. One of 2 things. It's either going to be a sweater or another Afghan. That's what I've been working on lately. That's just what I've been comfortable with. I can get it started. I know it's a big project and semi-mindless project unless I start doing cables, which I've been itching to do cables. My other project, I got myself some Snuggly Wuggly, which is there, and the colorway is gray. Let's see if I can get it up there. It may or may not focus. But it's colorway of gray, well, soft gray, I'm sorry. Recommended a US size 6 hook or 4.25 millimeter, and also a 6, which would be the US 4 millimeter knitting needle. There's 141.7 grams or 5 ounces. Let's see, where's my yardage? 408 meters and 446 yards. I did purchase me a sweater quantity of these, so that's what I'm going to be working on. Something to keep me busy. I'm making it the same way that I made my mother's. The only exception is hers was a medium to large, medium top. I just straight down so it was more of a large, and it fell in between the two sizes. I have my notes, and if you can understand any of this, then that's how I do my patterns. I mean, just basic, they make sense to me. I am planning on putting buttons in mine, and for men, it's their left side of the body has the button holes. So looking at it, it's going to be the right side looking at it, left side wearing it. For women, it's just the opposite. When I was studying tailoring, it took forever for me to get that in my brain, that this side wearing it and it's this side looking at it, and there is a difference, and you have to get your mind to do that flip. So I've got my plans, I've got everything figured out. It's just a matter of getting it started and just working on it. My other plans, I'm not sure. I'm just going to do a little bit of spinning, think about a few things, and work on my sweater. I'm itching to get socks back on the needles. I do have about, I think, 2 more hanks of sock yarn that are ready to be worked up. In a few days they may be cast on. I'm not sure what pattern I'm going to use yet. Probably stay with my vanilla sock pattern. That's just a comfort zone for me. And just have fun doing them. I think that's about all of my show and tell. No, it isn't. The main thing, important thing, my mother's sweater. So, my mother and my brother came to visit. So it was a wonderful visit. Enjoyed having them here. She did not have as much trouble coming up and down the steps as we were afraid she would. I do have 6 steps coming up to my porch. Then from the porch inside the house, I have about a half a step. It's, I think, maybe 4 inches tall, just enough that if you're not aware of it, it can be a tripping hazard. She did bring her walker, and she brought her cane, and when she was coming up the steps, I told her, I said, this is how I do it. I hold on with my right hand onto the handrail of the steps. My left hand, I'll hold on to the cane. 1 step, I'll put my foot up. I'll bring my other foot up to it. I'll wait a second, and then repeat until I'm all the way up. I don't try to rush it. She did that, not a bit of problem. We did, my younger brother was on one side, I was on the other side. Well, actually, I was like 1 step up and to her side, and he was like 2 steps down and to her back. So we were there either way, just to make sure. Coming into the house, I went ahead and unfolded her walker, because it's like this, and then a walker will just fold like that for transport. And she's like, no, just give me your hand. So she had her cane in one hand, took my hand in the other hand, come on in, not a bit of problem. So we were very proud, very thankful. And when they left, I told her, I said, if you need to, turn around and go down 1 step at a time. She's like, well, let me try this first. So I told Tony, I said, let me get my belt. So I went ahead and took my belt and put it around her waist so I'd have something to hold on to from the top, and he was down below her, just in case, and she had no problem whatsoever. She did a lot like what I do, and that's sideways, except she turned from her left facing the rail. She turned so had her right where she could work both hands on the rail. And for me, I will have my left hand on the rail and my cane in the right, and I'll have my back to the rail just to lean up against. She did not have a bit of trouble. The only thing is, my brother and I, neither one of us took any pictures while they were here. So I sent him a message. It's like, could you please send me a picture of Mother wearing the sweater? He's like, okay, I'll be down there. We'll see which day she has it on and what day she feels like having a picture made, and whether it's one of those days where it's like, don't even look at me. And so we went by her mood and what she decided. So she's having a good day, and she had the sweater on. So here it is. Hopefully it will pick up. I don't think it will. Nope. I will use this as a thumbnail for this video. And yeah, that's my mother. She's my mom. A little bit on the spoiled side. A little bit on a whole lot on the matriarch side. But very enjoyable and very pleasant visit. And I've been thinking, all these people are saying, I'm in this make along, I'm doing this make along, and then there's the mystery make along, and the MCal and the CCal and all these other make it together. So I'm going to jump on that same bandwagon, and I dare you to join me. My make along there's 52 weeks in a year, so we've got 50 weeks left. So I challenge you at least once a week to make something. There's not going to be any prizes. There's not going to be any rewards. Just make something. Even if it's making your bed, making a cup of coffee, making dinner, making plans to go out and following through with those. Make something every week. And take care of yourself. Thumbs up would be nice. Put in the comments what your plans to make are. If you've already made something today. If you have any questions, if you have any answers, just leave me a hello. I will be trying to get a little bit better at doing this. I did have issues with the phone. Then I got my old computer out, and I recorded for an hour and 20 some minutes, and I went back, and the first part was like, okay, and I was going to try to figure out how to put a picture of my mom in there. Did not work. And then all of a sudden I looked, and it was like, well, the voice is going, but the lips are not moving. And it was like a bad B-rated movie that had English subtitles. I would hear a voice, a few seconds later I would see the mouth. And I was like, no, that bothers me, I'm not going to do it. I know it's going to bother other people, and it's not one of those cheesy sci-fi movies that anyone would want to watch. So I am going to try to get better. So I've got my little pad out. It's a very cheap one. I'm not sure if it's going to work or not going to work. So let me know if this is any better. And I did order a webcam for it, because on my pad, the back camera works okay. The front camera works okay. But everything was like you're using a lit candle out in the middle of the night trying to film something. So just cheap webcam. I'm going to give it a try. this doesn't work, I'm going to do something else with the phone and try to figure it out and see if I can get everything to flip so it'll be right side out. Just let me know. Also, if you would let me know, how often should I try to put something out? I don't think I'd have enough content for once a week. Maybe every other week, once a month, 3 times a month. Give me an idea of how often. I do have a couple of things in mind that I would like to share. One of them is the tools of the trade, which will be my hooks, my needles, probably my painting supplies, and possibly the sewing supplies. Like I've said before, I have condensed everything down. I went from professional grade as far as sewing goes down to crafting grade. My paints, I do not keep acrylics because they dry up. As soon as they're opened, they start drying up. All it takes is a little bit of air to get in a tube, and it just goes from there. Think of it as once you've opened a glue bottle, if you don't put that factory seal back on it, you're going to get that little clump of glue on the end and how it congeals. Acrylic paints can do that all the way down if it has air in the tube. I'm not a big fan of working with the acrylics anyway. That's my third choice, which, I do enjoy working with them. It's just not one that I work with a lot. I find that they dry too fast. They can be hard to mix, and it's just not for me. Oils, I transitioned from oils years and years ago. I do have my mother's oils and paintbrushes. She gave them to me a few years back, and it's like, I'm not able to do it, I can't see to do it, take it. So I've mixed hers with mine, and I also have some of the water-soluble oils, and quite a good collection of brushes. My watercolors, I have a few tried and true brands that I like, but I have most of those put out into a palette so that they're dry, ready to work with, and I just have a few tubes to refill, which I'll replace as needed. I'm not one to have a hoard of stock on hand. Brushes, I probably could downsize some of the brushes, but for some people, they would look at what I have and say, you have way too much. Most people would say, is that all you have? So I feel like I'm somewhere in the middle. My sewing supplies, I have a vast collection of scissors. I have some that my mother used when she was a seamstress. I have some that I used when I was a tailor. I have a pair that was my grandmother's, and she gave them to me because they were the tailor's shears, the extra long ones. They were probably 100 years old by now, and I'm down to one machine that I use all the time, a treadle and a vintage machine, which you see here, as well as my mother's old serger, because when my serger bit the dust, I didn't replace it, and she gave me hers to use. My yarn collection fits in one tote. Yes, one tote. It's the regular, I don't know what size, probably 2 foot by a foot and a half, maybe 2 foot tall at the most. And I have also pared down my fabric collection to about the same size tote. My quilt pieces, they're in a couple of boxes here and there. I've used up the vast majority of them. When I filed for disability, that was, what I did for gifts for people. I made quilts for everyone. So that helped me thin out and sort through and go through my stash and cut it way back. I do not have the specialty fabrics and all that I used to have. I do have a couple pieces here and there for various projects I've either tried that didn't work out, or I want to try and just haven't gotten to them yet. The other tools of the trade, I think that would be about it. Um, some would call it a collection, some would call it just odds and ends, but I just have what I use as I use it. I no longer need a vast supply of anything, so why keep it on hand? For me, why keep it on hand? For you, you may be saying, if I don't have a room full of the supplies I need when I need them, then I don't have the supplies. For others, it may be, well, I just have one item that gets the job done, so I don't need any more. I'm somewhere closer to the one item, but not quite. I do like to have a variety of things, but not an exuberant amount, or what I would consider an exuberant amount. Other people would probably say, no, that's just a little bit, don't worry about it. But please do let me know how often I should record, how often I need to record, what I need to do to improve what I'm bringing to you. I do say a lot, I admit that. Sometimes the brain just has to catch up, and sometimes the vocal cords in the mouth have to catch up. Sometimes it's connecting the two that have to catch up. But I think that's about it for now. My name is Buddy. This is Spun Together. Feel free to email me at spuntogether@gmail.com. And I hope to see you soon. Have a great day. Blessings.